Washington, D.C., with President Trump threatening cuts to Democratic programs. Some federal workers are preparing for missed paychecks today as the shutdown continues for a 10th day. Arkansas Congressman French Hill joins us now. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. Is there any progress being made? Is there a good faith effort to be getting in the room and talking about some of the details?
Well, good morning. It's nice to be with you. I think senators are certainly having conversations about what they'd be willing to do in the appropriations process after the government reopens. This is the issue. The House passed a clean, bipartisan, continuing resolution to have all of government open. And just yesterday, Chuck Schumer put a sign up saying, we're getting stronger every day. Well, you know who's not getting stronger? People dependent on the flood insurance program who are concerned about storms or floods. People who are working in the military who know next week they get their last paycheck. People who are dependent on grant programs from the federal government to keep state child care programs open. That's who's not getting stronger every day. And so I would just simply say all the Senate has to do is pass the continuing resolution and keep the appropriations process going. So the answer to your question is yes, senators are having conversations about what they want to do in fiscal 26 spending, including on health care.
Chairman Hill, you just said the active service duty service members, the military members, will get their last paycheck next week. Is it your understanding they will get paid next week? Because I think there's still been a question mark about that.
Well, I think that's the last paycheck that I'm aware of is the 15th. And maybe it's not. But either way, this is why I declined my pay during this whole period as I have in previous shutdowns. I don't think members of Congress, particularly in the Senate, should be paid while federal workers are furloughed, and some federal workers may well lose their job, when the simplest thing to do, Anne Marie, is to get this government back open. We were in the middle of discussing all of the spending for fiscal 26. The Senate had passed 3 bills across the Senate floor. We had passed 4 bills across the House floor. And Susan Collins and Tom Cole have that process underway. And Schumer, I think, for internal Democratic political purposes, chose to pick a fight with Trump and try to make a name for himself once again. So the Schumer shutdown starts in his office.
Meanwhile, we do see the executive branch continuing along on a number of foreign policy issues, including Argentina. I'd love to get your thoughts on this $20 billion swap line. If they are using the ESF, isn't that taxpayer dollars going to Buenos Aires?
Over many, many years since the 1930s, the U.S. Treasury has used the Exchange Stabilization Fund when they think it's in American interest for geopolitical reasons, for global international finance stability reasons, by both political parties. Treasury Secretary Bessent's first trip as Treasury Secretary was to meet the leadership at the Malay government in Buenos Aires. I visited Argentina in August to assess the IMF program, assess their progress, for the first time of trying to return Argentina back to a market economy that people can be benefited from by low inflation, lifting kids out of poverty, created a private sector, dropping currency controls. So I think the Malay government is on the right track, and I think Secretary Bessent is trying to carefully and prudently see how they can encourage that success. If they're successful, they will rival the stories in Taiwan or Singapore or the Asian tigers, and they will reverse the curse of 150 years of mismanagement in finance in Buenos Aires.
But Chair Hill, I was with the Treasury Secretary when he went to Argentina in April, his first international trip. This is because of the midterm elections coming up, not some geopolitical issue.
I disagree completely with you. I understand that President Milei is having national elections in Buenos Aires and on October 26th. That's true, and it's important that he keep the momentum going because they need legislative support for the reforms that they've made. But just in the first few months of his leadership, he's made substantial macroeconomic reforms that have improved the outcome, and individual citizens have been improved. So it's more than that. Argentina is an important strategic partner to the United States in the Southern Hemisphere for national security purposes, for shipping purposes, for global open navigation purposes. So it's a much bigger issue than just the fact that they have domestic elections coming up.
Congressman, the market is shrugging off all of what's going on, whether it's geopolitically or whether it's the government shutdown. And they're actually looking more to measures that you put forward, including some of the deregulation of banks, including some of what we've seen with respect to easing some of the ability for tie-ups in the financial sector. As someone who has been a part of the financial sector in the small banking area, as well as who's been really a leader in this particular space, how much more do you see this continuing? Are you encouraged by what you're seeing? What kind of consolidation are you hoping for?
Well, it's not about consolidation. It's about right-sizing the role of government supervision and tailoring bank regulations. This began under the first Trump administration when we passed a bipartisan bill that was signed into law by President Trump back in 2018. And in that effort, we wanted to tailor regulation and supervision of our financial institutions based on their complexity, not just simply based on size. And that's been a theme that we've had for my first 9 months of leading the Financial Services Committee, is we want tailoring both in capital markets and in commercial banking so that we encourage banks to be able to stay successful, have the capital they need to lend to customers, whether they're building new homes or starting new businesses. And that had gotten atrophied under the leadership by the Joe Biden Fed. It was too bureaucratic, too paper intensive, and that's the focus that we've taken.
How much are you watching what's going on in financial markets, the unprecedented run in things like Bitcoin, the mergers and acquisitions, the leverage buyouts that are starting to come back? Is starting to worry that maybe things will begin to get a little too far? Is that something that is in your purview in any way?
Well, I do think there is a return of animal spirits in the market. You see that in the equity and bond market spreads. You certainly see it in the number of initial public offerings that we've had, the largest in probably about 5 years. And so there are elements of that, and you've seen a return to some merger and acquisition activity in some industries. All of that is true. It's not something that I worry about instinctively that it's happening, but can it be overdone? Certainly, and that's the nature of markets. We want a regulatory and supervisory system, both at the Securities and Exchange Commission and in the bank supervisors, that makes sense, that's focused on material financial risk, focused on information that investors need, focus our CEOs and boards of directors at banks on material safety and soundness issues, and not be distracted by, tertiary topics like, is making this loan going to have an impact on climate risk?
Arkansas Congressman French Hill, thank you so much for being with us this morning, and good luck as the negotiations do continue. Really interesting.